Hello. Today, I don't really have a plan on what I'm talking about, but I am in the mood to talk. So I decided that I was gonna read a couple aphorisms from Heraclitus from the Fragments. So Heraclitus is a pre-Socratic philosopher, I think is what you would call him. But he's kind of important because if you have read Nietzsche, I believe, well, I don't believe, I know Nietzsche was very, very fond of Heraclitus. And because there were like two kind of big ideas kicking around back in the day, back in the pre-Socratic days. After kind of the mythology had been destroyed in Athens. Not destroyed, I mean, most of the average population would be still believing in myths and the Homeric gods and all that, but the educated, like 5% of people or more, you know, whatever, I don't know, I'm just talking. They would obviously be the educated intellectual class would be aware that these are myths, and this is just a way of describing something that's actually natural phenomena. You know, the sun is looks like a hot rock, not Apollo's golden chariot. And they're starting to get an idea of natural explanations for things in the world. And, but they get to thinking about the nature of things, right? And there's two sides. There'd be Heraclitus and Parmenides, I think Parmenides. So the idea is this: being versus becoming. Alright, so everything is either being, which means that it's sort of like this pipe is a pipe. Alright, I'm holding it in my hand. It is. You understand? That makes sense? Or you could look at it, you know, as, well, actually, this pipe was at one point a tree, and that tree got old and was cut down, and it became a pipe. This tobacco was once a tobacco plant, and it became dry and is now being smoked and turned into ash. So that's becoming. Everything is in flux and change. The being thing doesn't exactly make any sense to me. The only eternal being things that are, okay, we're talking about things that are stuff that are purely abstract, like mathematics or, you know, shapes. These things never change, right? You know, 2 plus 2 always equals 4. A triangle is always 3 points connected by lines. Um, I'm not, but I'm retarded. Okay, so if these definitions are not holding up, then. But those are the things that don't change. Those are being. Okay? Now, Plato has a big problem with becoming. Because the Greeks in general had an issue with things that are becoming. Because if things are in a constant state of flux and change, how are you supposed to find out about that stuff? Right? What's the form of grass? The grass in my yard. Because I walk out at one day and it's nice, it's trimmed, it's looking, I edged, and it's looking so good. The next day I walk out, there's dandelions in my yard. How can this be? All right, and in fact, I look at a single blade of grass at 1 second, then I look at it again. It's actually changed. I can't really perceive it as such because it's so incremental, but it's constantly changing. So how are we supposed to know about anything? All right, let me just give you a quick quote. Come on. Hey, this one has to do with the pipe, the tobacco I'm smoking right now. By cosmic rule, as day yields night, so winter, summer, war, peace, plenty, famine, all things change. Fire penetrates the lump of myrrh until the joining bodies die and rise again, and smoke, called incense. It's the beauty of change and chaos, right? Okay, because if it weren't for 9/11, no, I'm not even gonna. If it wasn't, I could say some really bad stuff. I'm not gonna say. If I could find this quote, it'd be really nice. I really should have marked it. It's I'll just give you the basic idea of it. The basic idea is that you can't step in the same river twice. Okay, because it's new water every time it's flowing, right? Oh, here it is. Aphorism 41. The river where you the river where why? My brain keeps glitching every time I start to read. The river where you set your foot just now is gone. Those waters giving way to this, now this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Okay, so it's constantly changing. Okay, you get the point. Everything is becoming. Being doesn't exist. It's just one thing sort of evolving into something else. Wow, this is kind of a good one here. The poet was a fool who wanted no conflict among us, gods or people. Harmony needs low and high, as progeny needs man and woman. That's nice. I like that. I like that a lot. You need contrast, polarity, the difference between man and woman, the difference between north and south, the difference between day and night, black and white, fly a kite, ride the bike, orange, porridge, hanging out with my buddy George. But the idea of not having conflict, that reminds me of Nietzsche as well. There's some quote attributed to him about the quickest way to corrupt youth is to teach him to value people who agree with him over people who disagree with him. And I think that's true, you know. I think you need to find people in your life that you can disagree with about a lot of things and sort of engage in a verbal conflict with without taking it personally. Take your knocks and get back up. Because that'll teach you a lot, you know. It'll teach you to think more clearly about what you value and what you believe. Because if you just think about, if you surround yourself in an echo chamber, it's very masturbatory. Like, you're just circle jerking, you know. Crude example, I know. But I was very grateful. I didn't go to college. I couldn't afford it, and I didn't really have anything that I wanted to go to college for. But I became a builder, and I had this coworker that we just disagreed on about just about everything you could possibly disagree with, and we just spent 4 years arguing with each other every day for 8 hours plus, you know. And I loved it. It reminds me of a quote from Melville in Moby Dick, where he says that a whale ship was my Yale College and my Harvard. I was like, well, the job site was my Yale College and my Harvard. Dude, you gotta get one of these. All right, you run way faster with these suckers. You gotta pull this out. Alright. You switch from the primary or the secondary. You go pull this guy out, and then you can run like that. There's some cool tricks with this too. Oh. This is embarrassing. Like that. We can just do this a lot though. Very repetitive. What else we got? This is a short book, by the way. I'd recommend you get it. Fragments by Heraclitus. It's honestly, let me see. There's only 130 aphorisms, and some of them are as short as the last one. It's called Silence, or it says Silence, Healing. It's kind of good, actually. There are a lot of times when you're hurt, man, you gotta be quiet with yourself a lot, and or not. Sometimes you gotta be silent and figure it out, and other times, sometimes it depends on the type of person you are. If you're like a verbal processor, because too much silence will lead to too much thinking, and you don't want to be doing that. Too much thinking is bad, actually. Very bad. As many people my age know. Men dig tons of earth to find an ounce of gold. You could fit these on fortune cookies. Aphorism number 2. For wisdom, listen, not to me, but to the word. Now, word here I think is logos, which there's a lot of connotations with logos, like divine reason, something like that. You know, if you're a Christian, especially if you're a studied Christian, somebody who's actually like gone into the research, like essentially you actually read your Bible, you know what logos means. When the logos became flesh. But it makes me wonder what Heraclitus means by word. Actually, it has my translation has the Greek on the other side, but I can't read Greek. It's Greek to me. Shakespeare, right? For wisdom, listen, not to me, but to the word, and know that all is one. That was another thing. That was another concept that I was kind of kicking around. Parmenides was kicking that one around. The one, which seemed like just a bunch of verbal judo. If you ever read, was it the Parmenides? Is it Parmenides? Well, there's a Platonic dialogue called the Parmenides, which is pretty good. It's actually Plato being very self-critical. He's been critical of himself. He's critiquing himself in his idea of the Platonic forms, if you know what that is. Because, I guess I'll just try to briefly explain Platonic forms. Platonic forms is where the idea of being and becoming kind of gets bridged. So the things that are becoming are the things on earth, like this pipe, which we can't really know about because it's not being, it's becoming. So we can't know about the thing itself. But what the Platonic forms do is say that essentially this pipe is not the real pipe. The real pipe is somewhere that we can't go or we can't see. We can think about it through deep thoughts. But the real image of this pipe, the form, the idea of the pipe, is in this place called the realm of the forms. So there's a more perfect, the perfect form of pipeness, of piposity. And this is an imperfect reflection of that perfect form, right? In the same way that this, what is that? Any guesses? Triangle, right? No, actually wrong. Not a triangle. Because you see these lines? They're not straight. A perfect triangle, an actual triangle, has straight lines. And you know, there's various other things about this triangle that are off, but Plato would hate me because I haven't studied geometry like I should. All right, I'm a bit of a retard in school. I should have paid attention. I didn't. So, in the same way that this is not a triangle, this is not a pipe. Just like that picture. Actually, this is a better pipe for that one. This is not a pipe. And in fact, what you're seeing on the screen is merely the idios, right? The image. Idios. That's where we end up getting the word for video. It means image, and a video is just sort of a collage of images that are moving and changing, right? I'm getting way wacky right now, and my brain's not functioning. I'm running off like 4 hours of sleep. Me and the fellas, we went out and had a bit of a symposium last night. If you know what that is, it's a drinking party. It's not an intellectual sit down where you have a conversation. Well, that sounded like a fart. No, it's just a drinking party. I didn't drink that much, but we were up and watched my buddy do karaoke. I still wake up early. I can't help it. My circadian rhythm is just cracked. Alright, what else? What we got in here? War is father of all things, and kings names few. Wait, war is father of all things, and king names few to serve as gods, and of the rest makes these men slaves, those free. It's pretty true. War is the great, determines generations. War is God, says the judge from Blood Meridian. You guys ready for that new war in the Middle East? Yeah, me neither. This is probably a good time to end the video.